We have the worst revival of an economy since the Great Depression. And believe me, we're in a bubble right now. And the only thing that looks good is the stock market. But if you raise interest rates even a little bit, that's going to come crashing down. We are in a big, fat, ugly bubble. Don't believe those phony numbers when you hear 4.9 and 5% unemployment. The number's probably 28, 29, as high as 35. In fact, I even heard recently 42%. And our real unemployment is anywhere from 18 to 20%. Don't believe the 5.6. Don't believe it. We are in a big, fat, ugly bubble.
He was right about that. Now he's president. What is he saying? Every time I see him, the stock market's a new record high. This is fantastic. You know, it's all because of me. This is great.
The stock market reached yet another all-time, in history, all-time high today. We're doing tremendously well. Our stock market just hit an all-time high. The stock market hit an all-time record high today, over 22,000.
And when the jobs numbers come out, oh, look how low the unemployment rate is. This is the lowest it's been in 15 years. I'm doing a great job.
We have, I think, 16 years. In 16 years, it's the lowest unemployment rate. Unemployment is at a 16-year low. We have already created over 1 million jobs since I took office.
Nothing has changed. This is the exact same economy he inherited. It's the same crappy jobs. It's the same stock market bubble. The only difference is he's not a candidate anymore. He's the president, and now he's trying to market the same crappy economy that Obama had and pretending everything is good. And I wish he would stay true to the candidate and admit, you know what, the economy is still a disaster because nothing has changed, right? He was going to drain the swamp. Instead, he just poured more water in the same swamp.
Where does that come from? That idea that it was too fast, that we weren't ready when it's been, what, 8, 9 years?
Well, they've been, I don't even say that they've been raising them at a snail's pace because I think snails are faster. But, they have certainly accelerated. Ever since Trump was elected, the Fed has hiked rates 3 times. Before the election, during the entire 8 years of Obama, they raised rates just once. So, they have certainly picked up the pace, even though the economy is no stronger and in many cases is weaker now than it was in the years before Trump took office. So I think the Fed has been emboldened to raise rates because they have a fall guy in Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump has made the mistake of claiming ownership of this economy, claiming ownership of the stock market, taking credit for the stock market's gains and the supposed strength of the economy. And so he set himself up perfectly, and the Fed could take advantage of that because when everything comes tumbling down, they can blame it all on Trump.
Peter Schiff, CEO of Euro-Pacific Capital. Certainly a pleasure talking to you.
And so he set himself up perfectly, and the Fed could take advantage of that because they have a fall guy in Donald Trump.
Because France is no longer France. We are in a big, fat, ugly bubble.
In the past, the president has referred to particular job reports as phony or totally fiction. Does the president believe that this jobs report was accurate and a fair way to measure the economy?
Yeah, I talked to the president prior to this, and he said, to quote him very clearly, they may have been phony in the past, but it's very real now.
Well, first thing I would say is that, I'm not so much surprised about what's inside the book. What I'm shocked about is the fact that they would let this author inside the White House for a year. I mean, the president referred to him as a total loser and a fraud. Stephen Miller just called him a garbage author, and yet they allowed him to wander around the White House for a year writing this book. So the first thing I'd say is that to reflect on what's going on in the White House is, you know, the notion that somebody would just be walking around the White House writing a book and then nobody went up to the president and said, did you actually authorize this and is this okay? I mean, Karl Rove or Rahm Emanuel in the Bush or Obama White Houses would have had that guy thrown out in 5 minutes.
Yeah. David, a huge impact of this book is obviously the fallout between the president and his former chief strategist, Steve Bannon, the Axelrod of the Trump White House. And Bannon has not publicly denied the incendiary comments, the quotes in the book, after which the White House released a statement saying, quote, Steve Bannon has nothing to do with me or my presidency. When he was fired, he not only lost his job, he lost his mind. Steve had everything to do with the loss of a Senate seat in Alabama held for more than 30 years by Republicans. Steve doesn't represent my base. He's only in it for himself, unquote. Obviously, I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Can you think of a worse communication strategy for dealing with this? Both of you have had to deal with books coming out during the Obama and Bush presidencies, respectively, ones that raised questions about internal strife, et cetera. Mark, former White House Press Secretary Scott McClellan wrote one. There was The Price of Loyalty about the former Treasury Secretary by Ron Suskind. How did the Bush White House deal with them? And what does it do internally to a White House, Mark, when people are quoted attacking each other in books like these?
Well, it's difficult, but the worst thing that you can do is flatter the book with attention. And even worse than that, threaten to sue the author. I guarantee if you want to raise sales for a book, threaten to sue the author. And as Michael Wollf said when he heard that, he said, where do I send the box of chocolates? So as a strategy, what you don't want to do is reflect too much attention onto something that's trying to get a lot of attention. But the fact is that, you know, books written in the White House, either authorized or unauthorized, are generally never helpful, right? And especially in the first year of a presidency, first years of the most successful presidents are chaotic. So the last thing that I think, you know, a strategist or an advisor to the president would recommend is, yeah, let's let somebody hang around the White House for the first year of the presidency and write about it.
The president has referred to particular job reports as phony or totally fiction, the economy?
Yeah, I talked to the president prior to this, and he said, to quote him very clearly, they may have been phony in the past, but it's very real now.
And so he set himself up perfectly, and the Fed could take advantage of that because they have a fall guy in Donald Trump.
We are in a big, fat, ugly bubble.